We have one more presentation by the 422nd, and my son John, you know, being the 422nd was the greatest, I wanted part of the 417th offspring to have a part of it. And he's going to read one by James Reed, who was an electrician in the 422nd. John?
Good morning. I'm going to read a piece by James R. Reed entitled "The Power Supply on the P-61 Black Widow." I am James R. Reed. I was one of 2 electrical specialists in the 422nd Night Fighter Squadron as required by the Table of Organization. The senior electrician was Jerry Atmore, who was already a staff sergeant when I joined the 422nd in Kissimmee, Florida in November 1943. FYI, each squadron had 2 aircraft electricians, 2 instrument specialists, and 2 propeller specialists, plus a painter, a welder, and a photographer. Each P-61 had a crew chief and usually 2 mechanics assigned. Our usual work consisted of checking starters and generators on the 2 P-61 engines when something seemed amiss. Actual changing of the starters and generators was handled by the crews themselves, with many a scratched knuckle and finger joint. Battery checks in the rear of the wheel wells, nacelles, made sure the battery cells had water and that the overflow systems, which consisted of a sealed jar with absorbent material and bicarbonate of soda, neutralized any battery acid that did escape during wild maneuvers or overcharging the battery. The plane had a 24-volt system. There was a drain on the outside of the boom where overflow could escape. When overflow occurred, it was an indication of a problem, part of which was acid eating the outside of the boom. Magneto changes usually called for our help. There was an easy electronic device that told us when the gap was at the correct place in the firing system. There was also a visual mechanical system that enabled us to set the time. With magnetos, as with life, timing is everything. Pumps at the base of the gas tanks started wearing out in the fall of 1944, but they were relatively easy to replace. Generally, we removed and replaced most items and did not do repairs at the squadron level. One of our fun jobs was to fly on the afternoon check ride and be sure newly installed generators or voltage regulators were in parallel so that the load was evenly distributed, as the radar system did put an extra load on the electrical system. The voltage regulators were easily accessible in the panel to the rear of the gunner seat just behind the pilot and were easily checked with a portable volt ammeter. Most of the fall and winter groups of the 7 lived in pyramidal tents with wooden floors scrounged from around the Florens base, ironically a former German night fighter base, with a stove in the center. About the only disasters that occurred after someone washed their ODs in 100 octane gas and hung them too close to the stove chimney. It only happened twice, neither time was at our tent. Another event was a weekly bath run to the public baths in Florens. There was plenty of hot water in huge granite tubs. In our squadron, the buck sergeants had CQ duty about every 6 weeks, which just meant spending the night in the orderly room, squadron headquarters, to answer the phones and wake up the cooks at 5 a.m. This is for James R. Reed, 422nd Night Fighter Squadron. Thank you.